All right. Good evening. I hope you can see me and hear me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you very much for coming. And we'll go straight to prayer. And I'd like one of us to pray with us. Annette, are you there?
I just knew you would mention my name.
Please pray with us.
All right, shall we pray? So, our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for beginning another week with us and giving us opportunity to join in the ABBY IMANI Show. We ask for your presence here tonight, but Lord, you speak through the resource person and address every matter concerning the topic he's coming to speak about. We pray for those who haven't yet joined. I pray that you remind them and then you help them to join in. Help us to have a great time in your presence. In Jesus' name have we prayed with thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So this is the ABBY IMANI REVEALS Show. This is where we speak you are real so that we can live. And we are continuing the real talk, and today is about food. These days, if what I'm seeing is anything to go by, it looks like Ghanaians have become quite health conscious. You see quite a number of people going on walks and stuff, and people talking about healthy eating. So we are glad to have Prof. Richmond Aryeetey to speak to us about the Ghana National Food-Based Dietary Guidelines, which came out recently. But before I allow him to start, I want to remind us that if you haven't done that already, kindly subscribe to the YouTube channel and also share with others so that they can join us in our conversations. Yeah. All right. So, Prof. Aite is the head of the Population, Family, and Reproductive Health Department at the School of Public Health, and he's a dietary specialist as well. So he's very he's an expert in the field. So you can be sure that whatever you're going to hear is going to be the gospel truth, nothing but the truth, and you can live by it. There's something I saw in the guidelines which I'm curious about. They said it's for healthy Ghanaians. Does that mean that those who are not well, it doesn't impact them? Is that what I mean?
Good evening, and thank you for having me here. First, I have something that I need to say. I've always seen your request inviting people to join, and then I keep thinking, okay, one day I'll join, and then they are here. And I'm not joining as someone to listen, but I came in to speak. So I don't even have an idea how you structure this, but
okay.
I'm happy to be here to share with you. Let me also indicate that I'm not a diet specialist, and that's actually part of the conversation around what people should do when it comes to issues around diet. We make a lot of assumptions. And so there are people who are trained, specially and licensed to provide dietary guidelines, and they are the dietitians.
Okay.
I am a nutritionist, and my work intersects with what they do, but I don't give, I'm not trained as a dietitian, but I understand the principles that they work with. And it is those principles that we have applied in developing the guidelines. And yes, you saw it right. So the guidelines have been developed for the healthy population because there are guidelines for therapy. And this is not a guideline for therapy. This is actually a guideline for people who are healthy. Maybe let me start with a question. If you want to know how well you should eat, where do you usually go to? Or where do you look for such information?
I think a dietitian for me?
The average person doesn't have access to a dietitian.
Okay.
So 2012, I and a colleague of ours who at the university who is a dietitian,
Okay,
we
someone
wanted
said
to
online.
understand. Sorry, can you hear?
Someone said online.
Okay. So we wanted to understand the situation in terms of how many dietitians do we have in Ghana? Do we have enough? And from that study, we realized that at that time, there were 10 regions. Out of the 10 regions, there were 4 regions that didn't have any dietitian at all.
Okay.
And there are a very few number of dietitians who are working in hospitals. We are training many more than we used to, but we are not able to employ them. So chances are, if you are looking for a dietitian, you may not find it. My thinking is that many people who are looking for dietary information will actually go online and Google something. Now the question is, when you Google something, how do you know that the information that you are getting is actually useful? Because there's all kinds of excuse my language, but useless information online. And so you need someone to guide you to sift through thousands of links that will come up. So that's really one of the things that this guideline is seeking to do. Help you have information that is based on evidence so that you can use it to make a decision. You know that this is something that I can trust. So that's what we are offering through this.
Okay, that's good to know. So please go ahead and tell us more.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So I am actually happy to share this every time I get the opportunity, because we've been working on this dietary guideline since 2016.
Oh, and wow. So
it's a long time coming. Yeah. And I'm also particularly happy about it because this is the first time that we have, as a country, developed a guideline that it's based on food, because usually when government puts out information about what we should eat, it's based on nutrients. The government has in the past developed documents like that, but it's based on nutrients. But how many people understand nutrients? People understand food. So this is the first time we have done a truly food-based dietary guideline. And currently there are only, in addition to Ghana, 9 countries that have done this in Africa. So it's really an important addition to our tools that we are using. So what's this document all about? It's designed to serve as a guide so that people can know what is the best way to eat so they can stay healthy. And this is where the departure is from something that you use when you already have a health problem. So Ghanaians, we have 2 main types of nutrition and diet related problems. One of them is that we have undernutrition, or people not getting adequate nutrients to meet their needs. So let me give you one demonstration of that. If you take 10 Ghanaian women, 4 of them have low hemoglobin, and therefore they are considered anemic. Anemia has several implications for the health of the mother of women, especially if they are in the maternal age. And it actually can lead to death, but it has several factors that limit women's productivity, and then it affects even the health of the children that they give birth to. And that's just one of the factors that is linked with the diets of people. And so we know that we have challenges with undernutrition. In fact, in children, it's even worse. If you take 10 children in Ghana, you have between 6 and 7 out of them being anemic. So that's a challenge that we are dealing with. But on the flip side, we also have a lot of people who have diets that predispose them to overweight and obesity, and what we call diet-related non-communicable diseases, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, people who have problems with dental diseases because of eating sweets and not taking good care of their teeth and oral health. So there are these conditions that are also related to our diets, but not in the undernutrition part. So we designed this so that we can give people the opportunity to know, how do I maintain my health based on what I eat? Because our diets, as I have indicated, have implications for our health. Now, to make this simple, because for the average person, the average Ghanaian doesn't read. I'm sure that one we won't have any dispute about it.
Yeah.
So to make it easy, if you write something like this and you make it complicated, then it's like hiding it from them. So we try to make the messages very simple so that the ordinary person who can read can actually understand it. So we have 13 recommendations. That's already a lot, but there's so much information that there's so much you can do to try and reduce it. So we have 13 recommendations. 6 of them are what we call the core recommendations. And then there are, actually 7 of them are core recommendations and 6 are complementary recommendations. So I'm going to go through the recommendations. The first recommendation is that because God in his wisdom has created a wide variety of foods for us, we should eat from as many of these food as possible. Unfortunately, we live in a world where people specialize in the kind of foods they like. And once they like one particular thing, they will just eat only that. So there are people who like rice and they don't mind eating rice in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. And if they live in Japan, they may even drink sake, which is made
rice wine. I used to like rice like that.
So the idea is you get the best out of the different foods if you have diversity in what you eat. And because different foods have different amounts of the nutrients that they offer us, you are in a better place if you combine different foods or if you eat different foods as part of your diet. So that's the first recommendation. It's a no-brainer. We actually have categorized all the food we eat into 6 groups. So you have fruits, vegetables, legumes, and nuts. Let me know if any of these terminologies get into technical areas, but I think fruits and vegetables is quite clear, right? Simple. Yeah. And even that, each of the ones I'm mentioning, there are so many different types. So if you like fruit and all the fruit you like is banana, remember that you are cheating yourself out of what orange will give or what pineapple will give, or all the different variety of fruits that are available, including the indigenous ones that we don't typically see in our stores. They are all very important. So fruits, vegetables, then legumes and nuts. So here we are talking about the beans, the nuts like groundnuts and in Ghana, we don't have very many variety of nuts, but in other places you find that there's quite a variety. But we also include things like agushi or melon seeds, which is a part of our Ghanaian cuisine. So all those foods that fall within that category is the third one. We also have the animal source foods. So the animal source foods include all animal products, but we emphasize the use of those that are not highly processed. So things like frankfurters and corned beef and things, those we de-emphasize those.
Okay.
So I mentioned 4. The next one is oils. So oils and fats. So the cooking oil that we use, and then there are other foods that have oil in them naturally, but oils and fats are the next one. And then we have grains and cereals. So there's a wide variety of grains and cereals we eat in Ghana. And then also the staples. So we have the various tubers that we eat. Again, there's also variety within that. So these are the key food groups that we have. Did I leave any of them out? Fruit, vegetables, legumes, animal source foods, staples, and then oils. So those are the 6.
Grains and cereal.
Exactly. So the more of these you have in each meal and across the day, the better. So we recommend that at the end of the day, if you have not had variety at all, you should have 4 out of the 6 food groups in a day. Then you really come very close to meeting all of them. So that's the first recommendation. The second recommendation is to eat fruits every day. And we recommend that you eat a variety of fruits. So don't go and buy a whole basket of oranges and then that's all you are eating. Have variety. And we recommend that the value of fresh fruit is better than processed fruit. So people like orange juice, but orange juice is not the same as eating the orange. So we recommend eating the fresh fruits. The same with vegetables. You have vegetables as part of the diet every day.
Now, the orange, for instance. So I heard that it takes eating a whole lot. I don't know the exact amount to get just a bit of the vitamin C, especially that we are looking for. So that's why people.
Okay, so I'll give you the quantities that we have estimated that people, the average person should be eating. As we go along, I'll give you that information. Because we also had to estimate how much of these different food groups the average person should eat so that they also don't gain too much weight, because one of the challenges we have, as I indicated earlier, is that we are becoming a fatter nation. We are becoming fat. So we have that in mind and there's all kinds of mathematical modeling that went into doing those estimates. Anyway, so fruits, vegetables, legumes, and again here, many of us are used to the black-eyed peas. Things that we eat, but there's quite a wide variety of beans that we have in Ghana. And if you go to the market, there's that variety, but we don't look out for them. And so we are promoting eating a variety of these. And then the other nuts.
Also don't know.
Sorry?
I think some people also don't know the different varieties.
Marketing sort of drives what we do a lot. And so if you are used to seeing a particular one, people tend to just focus on that one.
Yeah.
So it will really be good to focus on finding what the variety is. We are hoping that by the communication that we are doing, people will actually look for and ask for variety. And when there is demand, it will lead to supply. That's what we are hoping will happen.
Okay.
So again, within our local communities, there are all kinds of different types of legumes that people eat. Some of it you may not even find it on the market, but people are growing them. So recently somebody gave my family dawa dawa. That one is a legume, but many people don't use it. In fact, in my home, that was the first time we were using it, and I really like the flavor that it adds to food.
Oh, really?
Yes, you haven't tried it before, so
I have my mom and my sister use it sometimes, but I think
yeah,
that smell is a bit some way.
yeah. It's a lot of the things that we know. They are an acquired taste. Everything that you eat, you acquire the taste, and then over time you get used to it. So nobody was born eating pizza, isn't it? But you acquire the taste. So it's the same principle. Then the fourth one. Sorry.
I like how you labeled the pizza as a food, discretionary food.
Because we have evidence that shows that highly processed foods actually increase our risk for non-communicable diseases. And it is such an important issue that we need to focus on, because it's something that, if for our part of the world, it wasn't part of our diet. But because of social changes and transitions, we are adopting it. We pay a lot more money for it, and yet it is not healthy.
Yeah.
Compared to all the other foods that I'm mentioning, I mean, there's no question about the fact that the healthiness is limited.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So then the next one is the oils. So now we have a lot of different types of oil. We are not limiting people as to which type of oil to eat. However, we know that some oils have a profile that are protective for the heart. Some of these include olive oil, sunflower oil, soybean oil. Now, I know that in the last few years, there's been a lot of talk around coconut oil, but the key ingredients that have been associated, the ingredients in the oil that have been associated with protecting the heart, the amount in coconut does not compare with the other ones that I have mentioned. And
I have to tell my parents then. They take a lot of the coconut oil.
Yes, but because it's being promoted and people, a lot of the decisions that we are making about food is also being driven by commercial interest. And so that is one of the things that we need to really guard against. And so all the people who are involved in the work that we did, we had to make sure that we limit conflict of interest, or we address issues of conflict of interest, so that people are basing this on the science and not based on maybe their interest in a particular issue or a particular benefit that they may get from it.
Yeah.
Okay. We also are promoting that even for animal source foods, so eggs, meat, fish, there are variety. So we know that there are people who just love meat, and it doesn't matter what time of the day they will eat meat. But we are suggesting that people should have a variety of animal source foods in their diets. So we have fish, we have eggs, we have milk, and all the different types. And because we can't tell what people have in their homes, we propose that they have the variety. I see somebody's hand is up. Should I carry on or?
Yeah, Dr. Ganley. I think he can ask the question and then you can go on. Dr. Ganley, please go on.
Yeah, yes. I just had a question about so in relation to the oil. I've got a question about shea butter.
Yeah.
So I just got back from Kenya, and so when I was going, a colleague who is in Malawi kind of asked the in-law to give me shea butter to bring along. And I mean, like the stress I went through at Kenyatta at the airport was just ridiculous. And then I figured out that the government of Ghana has completely classified shea butter as cosmetic. Now, I mean, that was something very scandalous for me growing up in the north, where that was the only kind of more or less like oil that we eat. And then it's like, now you can't. It was so hard to explain that we actually eat shea butter and not like cosmetic is like another use. So I just wanted to ask Prof whether this, as part of the guideline, whether this is one of those things, or I mean, this whole drive to kind of commercialize it and make it like cosmetic, that it basically has taken away the fact that this is probably like a potentially healthy kind of type of oil that has been eating over centuries, and then all of a sudden it's like you can't actually lay claim to the fact that we eat it. I mean, I was just scandalized and I felt I mean, I was like, this is like the yeah.
There is a whole political conversation around the types of oil. I can tell you, within the group of people who worked on this, oils and fats were probably the issue that we spent the most time on because of the whole sensitivity around two kinds of fatty acids in oils. We call them the saturated fatty acids and unsaturated fatty acids. And the shea butter has a lot more saturated fatty acids. So in the document, you see that we promote eating oils that have less saturated fatty acids.
Right.
And the saturated fatty acids, when they are more in a particular oil, the way you see it is that at room temperature, they are solid. Now, shea butter falls within that. Palm oil also falls a bit more within that. But shea butter is really solid at room temperature. Okay. And so that is the issue with that, because the science then shows that oils that have a lot more saturated fatty acids tend to have a lot more challenge or are linked with heart conditions. However, we do know that people have been consuming these for many years.
Right.
Palm oil, shea butter, and we don't see exceptionally high levels of heart problems among our people beyond what we see in other places. In fact, this same situation occurs in in South Asia, where they also use a lot of palm oil related products, and yet you don't see excessively high levels. So I won't go into the long politics around it, because there's a lot of international politics and trade related politics around this, but I'll just say that we promote eating a variety of oils, but limit the total amount of oil that is eaten. I think at this stage, that's where the state of the science is.
Right. Thank you.
That's helpful. All right. So Abigail, should I carry on?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I've talked about fruits, vegetables, legumes, animal source foods, the fats, and then the last one is the staples. So we are we are recommending eating a variety of cereals. Nowadays, it looks like cereal is synonymous to rice. Many of us were growing up, cereal was synonymous to abele, maize. But it looks like that has shifted. And even though we are importing the rice, that has become the main staple that many people eat. What we are promoting is eat a variety of them, because different cereals have different profiles of nutrients in it. And especially the ones that are not highly processed. So if you eat rice, the default is for people to go and eat polished, how do they say it on TV? Perfumed rice. But actually, we have our local rice, and especially the one that is parboiled. And we love it when it's used to make wache. But when we are cooking, then we go to Thailand. I think that's one of the things we want to encourage people to eat, variety. In fact, 2019, I was in Rome for a meeting at FAO, and they served us during lunch, they served us rice, and I saw about 5 or 6 different types of wild rice.
Okay.
And they were different colors. There was violet, there was blue, there was black, there was red. I mean, there's all kinds of rice. It's just that the commercial involvement in the production has decided to prioritize one kind of rice, and that's all they give us. And that's all we are. And we are missing out on all the varieties and the benefits that it brings us, especially color. And let me say something a little bit about color. So there are certain compounds called carotenoids that you find in food that has color. You find it in vegetables that are brightly colored, like the violet, the orange, the yellow, and all those. You also find it in some types of sweet potato. It's the same, carotenoids that you find in palm oil. So we are promoting that we should eat especially foods that also have all these bright colors, because it turns out that God has designed these bright colors to give us vitamin A. And yet we live in a part of the world where vitamin A deficiency is also a big problem. So that's one way to solve that problem. Okay, so those are the ones that are related to the food groups.
So before you go on, I was asking, do you know why there's the commercializing of the white rice is more than the colored ones? Is it because the white one is easier to grow?
No, actually, even the white one, when it's grown, it's not white. It has a germ around it, the nutritious part around it. Polishing it removes all those healthy parts, and then it's left with the kernel. And I think it's just for aesthetic purposes. That's why they do that. And we have been programmed to think about white long grain rice as, occupying the top of the range. But this is just for marketing and Ghana, how do we say that? For there's a word about showing that it is very nice. I can't remember. So it's just for aesthetic purposes.
Okay. Okay. All right, please go on.
Hopefully we all get into this mode of looking for now what we call Ghana rice. It's just rice that has not been polished. And that one, you see the color, it's about brownish. So the brown that we are taking out is actually what we should be consuming. The same thing applies to wheat. When we take off, the healthy part, then we end up with just the kernel, and that part is not healthy. In fact, what the flour companies are doing now and it is required by law in Ghana, is that once they have polished it and removed the healthy part, then they are supposed to add a synthetic version of the healthy parts that they removed to it.
Okay. So
It doesn't make sense.
that's also healthy. It doesn't make sense because if we are going to
Naturally, it has the healthy part in it. If we were
yes,
consuming the wheat without removing the germ and the outer covering, we'll actually have good outcomes out of it. But because we are used to having flour as a product that is white and has been marketed like that, that has become the standard for flour. So now, because we want to use flour as a vehicle for promoting intake of healthy options, and because we know flour is consumed for many things, then the government indicated that the flour mills must add, I think there are about 6 or 7 different micronutrients to it at the point of processing. Even that one, a recent micronutrient survey showed that only about half of them are adding the micronutrients to the level that is required by law.
yeah. So what the thing about the wheat, does the synthetic one have a different color from the natural one?
You mean the flour?
Yeah. Processing and taking out the outer.
So you don't, when they are making the flour, you don't even see the good parts that they have removed. They don't bring that to you. All they bring to you is the white one. And so once they bring that, they just add the amount of micronutrient they add is supposed to be very small, so it doesn't even change the color.
I'm wondering why, if you're going to add the synthetic one, then why not just maintain the natural one?
The bread seller, you also bake bread, don't you? How do you think your customers would react if you sell them bread that is different color than what they are used to?
Brownish. But I guess you have to
Maybe
start
you
from
would do, but another baker will not do, and it will create problems for your business.
and I guess that's why this guideline is important. So we'll have to start from
Right.
somewhere.
Right.
Start
Yes.
awareness
Yes.
so that when it happens, people are not scared and shocked.
Yeah. Okay. So can I go through the complementary recommendations?
Yes, please.
I'll try and make that very quickly. So the first one is to eat foods that have high sugar, fat, and salt, to eat them less frequently. Now, what are the foods that have high sugar in them? Basically, the sugar sweetened beverages. Now, it looks like children cannot learn in school unless they go to school with some kind of a packaged drink. So I don't know what happened to us. We missed on all that, but probably it's good for us that we missed on that.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's also become fashionable for people to drink some kind of a sugar sweetened beverage before we eat. When you go to an event, that's like all that is offered. So that is something that we are recommending, that people reduce the amount of those foods. Limit. We know if we tell people not to drink it, they won't mind us. Because people have become hooked on it. You know, you can become hooked on sugar.
Yeah.
The same centers of the brain that is associated with being hooked to cocaine is the same centers that are affected when you get hooked on sugar.
Yeah.
So you can become addicted to sugar. And sometimes you don't even realize it.
What would you say about the local drinks coming up, the ones that are boxed? I don't want to mention names, but
we can talk about Asana and
no, not the
which
indigenous
one? Oh, brand ones.
Yes, but they say they are natural,
Oh, that's one of the recommendations. Let me jump to recommendation, the complementary recommendation 3. That is, you need to read the labels and the nutrition information. And we've given some guidance on that because many of us are buying packaged things and we believe whatever is written on it. But sometimes if you take time to read a little bit about the subtext, you would realize that it's just a claim. First of all, the Food and Drugs Authority is supposed to help us by making sure that the claims that they make, they have to substantiate it. So if you make a product and you claim natural, you have to substantiate that this is natural. And then also natural in itself does not mean anything. The fact that you say something is natural, it doesn't confer a unique benefit.
Okay, so natural is different from organic. Can you say that?
Organic is a particular criteria, but it's a trade criteria that is used, and you have to meet certain benchmarks for you. So, for example, here I went to buy apples, and on each apple you will see a sticker, and sometimes it's fair trade or it's something, and they actually go to the farms to make sure that the processes that they are using meet those characteristics, but it doesn't necessarily confer a nutritional benefit to it. And I know that some people will start having problems because their businesses will start shaking.
We're in trouble here.
Because they built their whole business around natural. And yet natural by itself does not confer any particular health benefit. And I know that they are trying to compare it with foods where there are synthetic products that are added to it. But just the fact that it is natural does not mean that it is going to protect you. Because there are natural products that are planted and watered with water that is contaminated.
Okay.
I also swear. Because that also exposes you to some kind of harm. It's just that the Food and Drugs Authority and all the relevant government institutions have a mandate to make sure that whatever claim you are making, there is evidence to substantiate it. If you say it's natural, compared to what is that going to have an extra benefit? Otherwise, it's just a claim. And a claim is something that is not useful until it has been substantiated. And the burden is on the company to prove that evidence. Okay, let me come back. So I was talking about sugar, fat. We are advocating or recommending reducing total fat intake, because remember, it's not only the oil you are using that has fat. There is also fat in the animal source foods, in the legumes. So there's sort of fat ubiquitous in so many of the foods we eat, especially the processed foods. So we need to be aware of that. And then salt. We have up to about half of Ghanaians who have elevated blood pressure and they don't even know because they haven't been diagnosed. So they are just there and then they have a crisis and they are gone. So that's one of the ways we are trying to address that. The next one looks like a no-brainer, but so many people are not physically active. And especially in urban areas, we live lifestyles that becomes very difficult for us to be active. So me, for example, if it was not because I play tennis actively, the only physical activity I would do would be the climbing of the stairs from the ground floor to the second floor in my office, and that's it. That would have been the only physical activity I do. And so we are asking people to be intentional about it. Now, physical activity is not only exercise. Physical activity can be incorporated in our work. My host here, who is hosting me here, he has in his office, he has a desk which allows him to be able to raise his computer, so at some point of the day he can get up and stand and work, so that you are not sitting all the time. The area where I am is designed in such a way that even if you ride your car, you park so far away that you have to walk. So you even don't see really the benefit of driving your car around. You might want to take the tram. And so the built environment is designed to promote, active transport. We also build it into our home chores. So now we are getting everything, machine driven. But can we do some of the things ourselves so that machine is not doing everything for us? That way we get physical activity. We can also get physical activity as part of our work. So we should organize our work in such a way that we are, if the printer is by you, you print and just take it. But if there's a central printer, then you have to walk somewhere and go and get it. That's all counts as part of it. So we should be physically active. I've talked about reading labels, keeping food safely and eating safe food. Unfortunately, because of poverty, people are buying food that is unhealthy, especially when it's packaged food or pre-packaged food and it's about to get spoiled. Then they reduce the price, then people go and buy. If you don't watch the dates, you could actually get into trouble. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is all the issues around maintaining appropriate hygiene, personal hygiene, and then adequate sanitation, especially around the utensils that we use to cook, how we even shop. If you are going to the market to buy things, you will buy things that will not go bad, and then you also buy things that can easily go bad. And it takes you like 3 or 4 hours to shop. Then you have to be strategic how you do the purchases so that the one you buy last will be the one that can easily go bad, like animal source food or fresh fish, meat, and things like that. The only problem is that we buy from markets where that place already leaves much to be desired in terms of how the food is handled. And so that one has to be handled by the local government authority about how they manage food. We should drink water regularly. So that one, again, is a no-brainer. In fact, we are recommending that instead of drinking all these soda and sugar-sweetened beverages, we should be drinking water in place of that. And then finally, we know that if we start a conversation that people should stop drinking alcohol, we will be in trouble. We are recommending limit alcohol intake because alcohol is also a big driver of non-communicable disease, especially when people are drinking in a harmful way. There are people who are young people who are drinking lots of alcohol, mixing it with all kinds of things. So in a nutshell, these are the recommendations that we are promoting. Now, let me just say that these recommendations by themselves are not useful unless there are certain things that government needs to do. They have put them in place. I'll just use the example of the market to illustrate that. Government is supposed to ensure that our markets are healthy, hygienic, and the environment is safe. But we still live like we lived maybe 60 years ago. You go to the markets, the food is placed on the sack on the ground, or on a table that is very low, and it is being sold by the gutter. All those things need to change. Then the recommendation we are making will make sense. So we are working on a complementary guideline. It's called the Food System Guideline. That one is supposed to be the work of institutions like FDA, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, the Trade Ministry, and all those agencies who are supposed to do certain things so that we can be successful in following the recommendations. So that's what we are promoting. I think I've covered all of them, the essence of all of them. So I will be happy if people have questions. I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah. When you talked about the built environment to facilitate physical exercise, I was going to ask, so is that the responsibility of the government as well, or the individuals within that environment?
So it's not individuals. One of the simplest activity you can do, assuming your work and your home and your transportation does not give you activity, so you actually now want to go out and be active. One of the simplest activity is to walk. However, walking depends on your place. You see that a lot of people come to Legon to come and walk.
Yeah.
Because Legon has that very nice environment for that. I did a study, was it 2011? And the hypothesis was that if there was any community in Ghana where you find it most interesting to walk in and easy to walk, it would be where, if I were to ask you, where will you select?
So you've mentioned Legon.
So Legon is not a real community. You can take that one out.
Okay. I think some of the estates where you
Like
have
where?
So
I chose East Legon.
East Legon.
Yes, I chose East Legon.
Okay.
Give me a second. Let me take it. Give me a second.
Sorry.
Let me take it down.
All right. Okay, so this is
all right. So I chose East Legon for a very practical reason. It's very close by. Okay. East Legon has all these nice mansions that have been built. The roads are paved. You will see that in many communities in Ghana. Even some of the estates that have the gated communities, you go there, their roads are not very good.
Yeah.
At East Legon, the roads are good and they are paved and everything. So I did what we call a walkability study. This is to determine whether there are any barriers to walking and whether if you walk on those roads, you would find it easy and enjoyable. And there are all kinds of indicators for doing that. This is done routinely by the Department of Transportation in the US. So I use their tool to do that. It turns out that Ghana, we have even within a place like East Legon, the pavements have not been made, have not been constructed. There's a law that requires that we should have the pavements, so you should leave a certain space between your wall and the street, and that's what's supposed to be used for the pavement.
Yeah.
What do you think they use those space for? Illegally, people have used it to construct a lawn.
Yes.
And they have blocked it. So you can't walk there. You have to necessarily walk on the streets.
Yeah.
Between that lawn and the street, there's a gutter that is not covered. Sometimes the things that are in there, you don't want to walk around there. Or there's a risk of falling. And then there are culverts in places where there are culverts that cover the gutter. Sometimes the culverts are broken. So if you are walking, you can actually twist your leg. There are people who have had very dangerous accidents walking and their feet getting lodged in those culverts and getting hurt seriously. In addition to that, there are people who have built businesses in front of their house. So sometimes there are shops and things like that. And the place where walking would have taken place have become either a parking lot for the cars or have become a place where they put the merchandise. So they literally force you onto the street.
Yeah.
Now, on the street, you have to deal with the drivers because our streets are narrow. And when they are coming, they don't care about the passenger. So there were all kinds of barriers that we identified. So something like this, you, the individual, you can't solve. It's actually city planning that is supposed to plan the environment such that there are places for residents, there are places for businesses, and that you can actually go to a particular place, you can walk in a particular place and feel safe and feel that you actually enjoy the aesthetics around. Those are the things that motivate people to walk. So even simple things like that are not existing. We also found that in the area, there were not places where people can actually, like parks. I came here and I've seen several parks and botanical gardens that you can easily go to, and you don't pay anything. You can go and see them. So people go and walk. Yesterday, my host took me to a place just to go and walk. We walked for about 2 hours. And apparently it's an English, pastime. They like walking. So they just go to that place and go and walk. How many people do that in Ghana?
I know.
These days, people are going to a brewery, but I think a brewery is an anomaly. Many people don't. Okay, over.
Thank you so much. A lot has been said. So now I'll give the opportunity for questions and contributions. So over to you, my audience. If you have any questions, please go ahead and unmute yourself or raise your hand. I'm seeing a number of people here. Delali. Is Delali there?
Okay, but if they don't have questions, I also have things I can say further.
Okay.
There is one trend that is really growing in Ghana, and that is the trend of eating out and eating processed foods. So one of the recommendations that we have is to eat less processed foods. When we talk about eating fruits, we are saying eat the fresh one. When we talk about vegetables, we are saying eat the fresh one. And we're also saying eat less of the foods that have high sugar, fat, and salt in it. We say that deliberately because the three things. I also did food science as part of my undergraduate. The three ingredients that are used to prolong the shelf life of food is these three things: sugar, salt, and fat.
Yeah.
But all these three are actually the things that they do two things. One, they increase our risk for disease, and then they also increase our addiction to food.
Yeah.
And so we really need to get the word out that when our children, it's okay that once in a while you eat something that is not made at home. But the thing is, anytime you are eating out, you don't know the ingredients that have gone into it. If you made fried rice at home, the ingredients will not be the same as the one that has been made outside. So I really encourage family eating together and eating from home, because you have then control over what you are eating. Nowadays, the trend is to cook people using monosodium glutamate, which is added to all kinds of spices, and that's what keeps people coming to the food that they buy outside. It's not because those foods are special in any way. It's just a hook. It's a chemical hook, and people keep going back to it. The other thing is that we know that processed foods, irrespective of the type of food, the higher the processing in it, the more it increases your risk for non-communicable diseases. So we really encourage that people should be eating and being deliberate about eating fresh.
Okay, there's a question.
Okay.
Mr. Dorothy says, what's the best time for the last meal? What is recommended? Thanks a lot.
Okay. So this is the kind of question that also has some debate about. But the general recommendation I would give is don't eat and then go to bed immediately. Because I know that there are people who sometimes get home around like 9 o'clock, but they haven't eaten. and so they need to have dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about the recommendation, the myth that we have heard that, oh, you don't eat past 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. There's really no science
Oh,
behind
really? Hey, some people will be happy to hear that. So.
it. There's no science behind it. The science is talking about the period between when you have eaten and then when you go to bed. So
Okay.
if you eat and then you just immediately go to bed, you don't allow the food opportunity to digest. And that's where the challenge is. So you want to eat and give time for the food to digest. There's something I learned when I was spending some time in the Gambia. When people eat, when they finish, they go for walks. And this is like something traditional. I don't know how they got that idea, but it is something that is really helpful because then it promotes the digestion process.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Someone say that's very helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions? So when I was glancing through the guidelines, I saw biofortification.
Mhm.
And the interesting part is the genetic method. So,
So biofortification is a process where you increase you use okay, there are different ways of doing it, but you can use breeding methods, so simple agricultural breeding methods, or you can use genetic modification to make particular foods that have higher amounts of nutrients in them. So I'll give you two examples. One is now we have a variety of orange sweet potatoes that we call orange flesh sweet potatoes.
yeah,
They are not very common on the market, but
yeah.
they are there. If you look for them, you can find it. Those ones are biofortified in the sense that they select for wild types of orange flesh sweet potato that have that color and breed them so that you get a good breed that always have the high carotenoids that I talked about.
Yeah.
And the idea is that we know we have vitamin A deficiencies, especially among children. So we are using that as part of the diet so that when children eat it, they are eating their usual staple, but then alongside that, they are also getting the vitamin A that they need from the diet. So that's an example of using breeding to have biofortified product. The same thing has been done with cassava. So we have high beta carotene cassava. Again, it's also not very common on the market. We have high quality protein maize. So there are many different biofortified products already on the market. And then we have something called golden rice. That one is actually mainly found in Asia. You know, Asia, they eat a lot of rice. But they also have high rates of vitamin A deficiency. So the solution they came up with is to grow rice that has high vitamin A. But they didn't find rice that naturally has high vitamin A. So what they did was they used some genetic engineering approaches that allow them to change the genes of a particular rice variety. And then the rice that is grown, eventually the rice is colored yellow. So when you cook that rice, it's yellow. And again, that also has the vitamin A in there. So that's using scientific knowledge to improve the diet in that particular process.
So how does that compare to the whole conversation about genetically modified foods and the fact that it's not healthy for us, it's not going to help us in the long term, that it's sort of changing the nature of some of our foods. Let's say, for instance, one of the examples they gave is some of the fruits that have been genetically modified. They don't have seeds in them, so there's no way multiplicates.
All right. So I hope I can help put people's fears to rest about genetically modified foods. So the thing is that we are already eating a lot of genetically modified foods in our diets.
Okay.
Because a lot of the ingredients that are used for making all kinds of processed foods, flour, and all kinds of ingredients, they do some kind of genetic modification to it. Today, I was cutting some tomatoes to use this evening, and I realized the name of the tomato is called beef tomato. I had never seen that, but
I think I've seen it.
you've seen that, right?
Yeah.
It is very hard. But the way they do it is that they might look at another product that has that quality, and then they take that gene that expresses that quality and bring it. Maybe another tomato, but then they take that gene and they are doing the similar kind of experiments that you are doing to be able to determine the vaccines that we have taken. It's the same tools that they are using. Now, what we don't know is it going to give us any long-term benefits? Some of these products have been used for many years. We haven't seen any outcomes that are adverse. But we can see that the product that is created in terms of its nutritional profile is not different from the natural one, apart from the fact that for the biofortified one particular nutrient, for example, is being increased. But otherwise, if you eat the golden rice, what you will get from other rice is the same thing. So I, from my scientific understanding and knowledge, I don't think there's anything to be worried about. When people don't know and understand something, they always raise some kind of questions around it. The same questions we asked about the vaccine, the same questions we ask about all kinds of medications that we use. And I'm not saying that science gets it right all the time, but based on the knowledge that we have and based on what I have studied about genetically modified organisms, I don't see a reason for us to be worried about that.
Okay. So we've heard it from the professor. I hope this evening we'll sleep well. All right. So another question.
John has his hand up. Yeah.
So there are two questions in the chat. Then we'll come to Dr. Ganley. Cooked versus uncooked foods. Any comment on that, please? And then the second one is, how effective is bitter cocoa in managing lifestyle diseases?
Okay, so cooked food. I guess you are probably talking about vegetables because people eat vegetable salads. Otherwise, in Ghana, most of the food that we eat, we cook it until it is overdid.
We kill it a million times.
Yeah. Now, the value of cooking or not cooking depends on what you are trying to achieve. So if your aim is to eat foods that have fiber in it, which is basically the things that we get from vegetables, the cooking or not cooking, I think, is a preference. However, if we cook our food so much that, what I mean by preference, I said cultural preference, because we usually cook our vegetables. And if that's what people are used to, the fiber is not killed when you cook it. The only downside is if we cook it so much that some of the nutrients, we call them heat labile, they are affected by heat. So the more you heat it, then you lose some of them.
Yeah.
And even that one, you don't lose everything. Usually you might lose up to about 25% if you are doing high heat baking, for example, with some of those ingredients. But most of it still remains. But if you are continuously losing 25% in your diet, then it means that you are losing a significant amount over time. So if you find it preferable to eat your cooked vegetables, I encourage you to do so. In fact, especially in our setting where sometimes the source of the handling of the vegetables and the source of growing it and the water that is used is suspicious, you want to be on the safe side to make sure that cooking gives you some additional protection from any contamination that may be there, except if it is organic pesticides and things. That one, cooking may not help you. Yeah. Okay. And then there was another question.
Yeah, how effective is bitter cocoa in managing lifestyle diseases?
Okay, so remember that I said this is not about treating conditions, but when you use cocoa, there is a compound in cocoa. It's an antioxidant, and it is known to protect against reactive oxygen species. So there are studies that have demonstrated that continuous intake of cocoa provides that compound, and therefore it's beneficial. But we also shy away from promoting the idea of what we call superfoods, because when people focus on a particular food as if it is a superfood, then they are not able to put into practice all the things that we have said, because they think they can eat anyhow and then just take this superfood. But actually the benefit for your heart, it's linked with all the things that I have talked about, not just cocoa. And therefore you need to have a diet that is all-rounded, diverse, and that is what is going to give you more total protection than just having bitter cocoa. So if your diet is not good and you are just adding bitter cocoa to it, it's like eating sweets that have been fortified with micronutrients. It's not very healthy.
So what would you call a superfood? What makes food?
Oh, there are all kinds of superfood. Superfood is really determined by the market. So for example, moringa was promoted as something that has a lot of nutrients in it, then everybody was using moringa. Then there's this fruit. What's the name? Soursop.
Yeah.
That also became, people started, saying that it has all kinds of nutrients in it, and that it will melt away they say all kinds of things. But I mean, we don't promote superfoods, again, for the reason that I've talked about, because they are not really superfoods. They are just creation of people's marketing ideas.
Okay. Someone said melt fibroids.
Okay. The things that people can say melt things, even weight. There are people who would say if you drink certain kinds of tea, it will melt all the fat. It doesn't work like that. The fat there, it doesn't melt.
I see. Okay. Dr. Ganley, please go on.
Yeah, so I wanted to follow up on the genetically modified thing. So I think Prof has dealt very well with all the fears. I wanted to pick his thoughts on. So I think one of the worries is the potential for some of those, modified species to kind of overtake local species, and in some cases there are concerns about like colonization and basically displacing like local breed, and therefore probably like make it's like it's patented, and then you have to go and acquire it. Yeah. So like seedlings, okay, we have this type of seedlings, and you have to go and buy it and all of that. So there are those concerns, and I wanted to take his thoughts on what you think about that.
Okay, I'm excited that this group is interested in that aspect. That's it cuts across trade and also food rights and then issues around people's indigenous food commodities. Now, the issue is that when people are doing all these genetic modifications, they invest a lot of money into that. The way they try to get that money back is to tinker with it in such a way that you have to come to buy it from them. Because now they have what they would typically call a superior product. For example, sometimes they develop products that are resistant to pests. And then they release it out. But if they release it out and you can just buy it and then use it and then use the next seed, then how would they make their money back? So that is when sometimes they would re-engineer it so that the seeds that will come to the next generation are not useful. So you have to keep coming back to them. In fact, if you go to the Western countries, most of their farming is based on these modified seeds, even if it is just to ensure productivity of the seeds. Sometimes it's just high yielding seeds. Then they do that to it. Now, our risk is that if we buy those and then it gets to a time where now the average farmer who is sitting somewhere for many years has used his seed to plant and now doesn't have money to go and buy. You have introduced this new one and doesn't have money to go and buy. You would have actually taken away his livelihood because we don't give subsidies to our farmers. So that's where there is a concern. But the problem is that the issue is that most of the ones that are being brought, unless you are taking those to plant it as the seed that you are going to use, they are usually being brought as food. So Ghana has a port control system where any seed that you bring into the country, you need to let the authorities know. So you can't just bring seed and come and plant. So when they are bringing such foods, it is being brought as food to be consumed, unless you take the food to be consumed to go and use that. And if it's something that is also being used as genetically modified, it has to be labeled as such. And then you have to give permission for it to be used. So there are some checks and balances to control that. The only problem is in Ghana, we are not too good at following rules and regulations. So then things fall between the cracks. That's where the problems happen. But John, I think when it happens, it will be self-inflicted.
I know. Right. Thank you.
My question, Abby.
Okay. Go on.
Regarding old age and food supplements, is it really true that when one gets to a certain age, one is not able to get the full complement of the food that our brother has just mentioned, like the vegetables, the fruits, and all that, to the extent that they are recommending supplements like iron, this, take that. And you go to the dining table of aging people, and you have varieties of food supplements sitting more than even the food, and probably more costly than the food that they buy. So what is your take about that?
So the simple answer to that is that you don't require micronutrients unless there is a reason, there's a medically identified deficiency or deficiency disorder. So for most people, you can actually get the nutrients that you need from the diet, unless you are not eating a diet that supplies those nutrients. However, there are some caveats. For older people, some of these deficiencies may be as a result of accumulated deficiencies. So this is, your diet has not been good over time. You have not been eating food that has adequate calcium in it. You will have a situation of bone resorption. So there is removal of calcium from your bones to meet your needs. And therefore, at the time that you are old, your body is not efficient at recalcification. It's not able to place back the calcium. That process happens when you are young. So even though we know that you don't have adequate calcium, the solution that these companies who are marketing the supplements to you is to buy and use supplements will not fix the problem. And yet, because they make money from it, they promote it to you. I mean, the reality is that when you are sick, any medicine, you will try it. And that's what happens. So the reality or the recommendation I will give is don't take supplements unless it is recommended. Otherwise, many of those supplements are not doing anything for you. They are only enriching some people who are there and they are taking this money. The other dimension is that a lot of these nutrients, if you have adequate intake in your diet, your body actually doesn't absorb them because your body regulates the nutrients that you take in. So if you have enough of it, your body just tells your stomach, no, this one that you are taking in, I don't need it. Then it just goes down. And so you are like throwing money away. In fact, this is not just for old age, for all ages. There are people who have just set up industries for making supplements, and they are just making money out of it because they know that, the promise of long life is so alluring that when somebody promises you, oh, this will give you good health, you will live long, then you want to give anything and everything for it. Yeah.
Okay, there's a question, but before we go there, some of the supplements are promoted by health professionals. So how would you know that, okay, this person is doing it for commercial purposes? Or
So this is where I'll ask that when you are giving any prescription, even including medication, ask, why are they giving you the medication? For what are they treating it for? We are used to not questioning our health workers, but we should. And so if they are giving certain supplements, we don't need it. Let me give you an example that is actually very important and can determine the course of your health. So there are microorganisms that use iron to multiply. Okay. One example is the Plasmodium parasite. It uses iron to multiply. So if you have malaria and you take iron supplements, it can actually they would take advantage of the iron and multiply and make your malaria severe.
Wow.
And yet when you have malaria, you tend to have anemia. Anemia is God's way. Sometimes anemia is God's way of clearing your system of iron so that your body absorbs all the iron and stores it. So if you were to do another test for iron stores in ferritin, you will find that you actually have iron stores and that you are not deficient in iron. But merely they do a full blood count and they see a deficiency in, they see that your hemoglobin is low. They say, then there's a deficiency in iron. Then they give you iron. But what they are doing may actually lead to more severe disease because you are making iron available for the offending microorganism. So there has to be a science behind which micronutrient you are taking. Don't just take micronutrients. So ask, why are you giving me this? And what have you seen that is making you give this? And sometimes they want you to have that conversation with them, but because they are so busy and there are so many people waiting, if you are going, then they just say bye-bye to you.
Okay, but one final thing. So there's quite a bit of this network marketing, and some of them have all these
Supplements.
supplements. And what would you say about these as well?
Well, the main idea behind this network marketing is not about health. Health is just a smoke screen. The main idea there is to make money. The theory of change for them is the more people I get hooked, the more money I make. That's the infrastructure. So if you go in there thinking that the product is good, it's good because they've told you it's good. But how do you know it's good? That's all they have told you. But there's no guarantee that you are actually getting any good thing out of it. The only thing you can guarantee is that you are making money for somebody. And
How about those?
They give you a cut. Sorry?
How about those who have used it and have had positive outcomes?
So what is the positive outcome? Is it that you had a problem? There's something called a placebo effect. We can give you something that looks like a pill and you take it and you claim that, oh, now it is fine for you. I'll give you a personal experience. My mother went to a particular health, well, I don't know if I should call it a health center. It's a place where they said they deal with joints because she has all these joint problems. And she went and spent a lot of money and came back and was just walking nice and saying, hey, look at me, I'm fine. And was recommending it for everybody, and really pushing us to give her more money so that she would go there again and get even better. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Over time, she's now disillusioned with the place because whatever pain that she was feeling is still there. There are people who mix orthodox medicine and painkillers with some of these supplements and sell them. So you get some kind of a short-term relief, but whatever it is there. So you get this initial placebo effect that something has happened, and the mind can really play games on us. And these people know that. So we need to be careful about which products and the claims that they are making that we accept. Chances are they may be ripping us off. If you have a health problem that has been diagnosed, seek feedback on it, not just from one person, from another group, and confirm it. Then if there is mainstream solution to addressing it, try and do that. Because usually the ones that will come like unusual treatment or some unique treatment that has come, it may not even have been tested by the FDA. And we've seen situations like that where FDA has now had to withdraw the license from some companies because they were not registered, they have not been tested and all that. So we need to be careful about that.
Okay, our time is fast spent. So we'll take the last question. People are marketing carb blockers. Do they really work? They are marketed as foods that prevent your body from storing or using carbs.
Sorry, you said they are marketing what?
They are marketed, as foods that prevent your body from storing or using carbs. So she says people are marketing carbohydrate blockers. Do they really work? They are marketed as foods that prevent your body from storing or using carbohydrates.
Hey, this one there, I'm behind on the science. I haven't heard about carb blockers. So, Prince, you are the one who shared that, eh?
No, I just find it funny.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go and look for this one because I don't know if the body, from my biochemistry, I'm trying to remember it, whether there's any pathway that you block so that you are not able to utilize carbohydrate. But your body requires, the brain cannot do without glucose. Most parts of the body requires carbohydrates to be able to do what they do. So I don't know what that means, but this will be what do you call it? An expedition. I'll try and look for what it is, but I'm sorry, at this point, I don't know anything about that one.
Okay, so I'll follow up and then get back to them.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so Prince wants to ask a question. Prince, please go on.
So I was just wondering. I know that you had said that the goal of the guidelines is not for treatment of conditions, but for general well-being. But there's been this recent trend of people promoting low-carb diets. More because of the increasing cases of insulin resistance and what that means for hypertension and diabetes. I just want to hear your thoughts on whether you think that is something that is good if one wants to increase insulin sensitivity and therefore prevent themselves from developing any of these conditions.
Okay, so here I will issue a disclaimer. This is getting into clinical nutrition, and that's not my specialty. But I can say that there's been a long-standing debate about carb counting and its benefits for metabolic outcomes. And what we know is that if you reduce carbohydrates, you replace it with fat. If you reduce fat, you replace it with carbohydrate. That's why the focus of prevention is really diversity. Then that one, you are not focusing on one aspect against the other. Now, if you look at it within the context of therapy, then that's a whole new area. That one, that's not my specialty. So sorry to disappoint you on that one.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's Prince, so you are speaking all the way from Australia, eh?
No, I'm in Accra.
Oh, I thought you were gone.
I think you have me confused with someone.
Oh, there's another Prince A that I know in Australia. Okay. All right.
This is a friend of mine who likes beans a lot. So when he spoke about beans, he got excited.
Yes.
Me and you both.
I'm the national Kobe ambassador.
I love beans. I'm crazy about beans.
You hear what you said? You said he's a national government ambassador.
Me, I like my beans in wachi.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
He likes the concrete beans.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Anyway, okay.
Who meat or anti-fatty?
There's a comment that will draw the curtain here. It says maybe drugs like alcohols that are reserved for management of type 2 diabetes, which increase fecal losses of fat and some carbohydrates. Not recommended as an over-the-counter, only to be prescribed by your doctor. Okay. So I think that's okay. So he's responding to the question about the carb blockers. Okay. So I'll get more information and get back to you, Eunice. Is that okay? Is Eunice there? Okay. All right. So yes, thank you all very much. This has been very insightful and some revelations and information that has given some of us some relief. So thank you so much, Prof. Aryeetey.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So I'll come back and get some more information for some of the questions that we weren't able to address. Yeah. Okay. So this has been the ABBY IMANI REVEALS Show, where we speak, we are real, so that we can live. And food is one of the ways that we are kept healthy. It's my hope that we'll put all these we are learning into practice and share with others as well. I'll be sharing the guidelines to us when I send the YouTube link. So please, let's make time and read and be educated for our health and well-being. Okay. Professor, please, can you pray with us?
Sure. Let's pray. Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you that you created us and you know what is good for us. And sometimes our bodies are not able to do the things that we want them to do. And we need to learn how to use the blessing of food that you have given us so that we can have good health. Lord, continue to show us what's the best options and the decisions that we need to make around our diets. And Lord, help us so that the environment we live in would also be conducive as we make these decisions. Thank you for all those who have come to listen. And I pray that as they go and they share it with other people, they will also share it with others so that people will get to know more about this. Thank you that, Lord, you have heard and you will help us to be able to keep this. Bless all of us and keep us in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you all so much for coming. Once again, remember to subscribe and also share the YouTube. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hopefully.
Good afternoon.
Oh, you're not in the country. I see.
Thank you, Prof.
It's still
And thank you,
afternoon.
everyone.